What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So another one that came out that, I don't know if it was necessarily on my radar. Might have been on his.
It might have been on mine.
But it was an interesting one, and it kind of broke up the whole theme of, like, you know, more old school death metal stuff that seemed to be kind of the bulk of this weekend. So we're going to go over the newest album for the band, Hissing, Hypervirulence Architecture. This also comes out on the 15th of July on Profound Lore Records. This band formed in 2014 in Seattle, Washington. This is their second full length. They have 3 other EPs, a couple of demos, and a split, I believe. And, well, all right. This is described as blackened death metal because chaos is not a genre on the archives. Because that is pretty fucking accurate. In fact, when I looked at the similar artists, the first band mentioned was Portal. And I was like, fuck. Okay, let's get ready for it. And yeah, it's blackened death metal, but I mean, dude, it is so intensely dissonant and dark and ugly, unsettling, chaotic, insane. I'm thinking of other adjectives that would be appropriate. Yeah, those
yeah,
work.
you covered most of them.
Yeah,
that's pretty much. Yeah, I guess blackened death metal has a place in this. I think we need to start a new subgenre, to be honest. I think chaotic metal is going to become a thing.
I mean, you could make references to, like, war metal acts because it definitely has that sort of aggression and speed sometimes, like bands like Diocletian. But a lot of this, I mean, baseline, in terms of the most catchy band, at least to me, that I could compare this to is Incantation. And now, Incantation, for anyone that's watching this right now that isn't a fan of this crazy music, well, I'm glad you're actually watching this and maybe seeing if you like something absolutely insane. But Incantation's not necessarily that catchy. Like, it's catchy to death metal heads.
Yes.
We love that shit.
Yes, I love Incantation. Nick loves Incantation.
Yeah. But to someone that listens to more accessible stuff, they're just going to hear Satan gurgling into their eardrums and loud guitars. This is beyond that. Like, that is the most baseline sort of catchy thing I could come up with in terms of comparing this music. Outside of that, bands like Infernal Coil, which is chaotic in itself, Profanatica, Pissgrave, maybe Blood Incantation in terms of some more avant-garde song structures and unpredictability.
It's there a couple times in the album, but yeah, Pissgrave's a good comparison.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get into Portal and Pissgrave, like, at the same time, I mean, you can pretty much get into anything, I think, at that point.
It's fair.
But yeah, this whole album is just dark. It's so fucking dark. It's so insane. It is a bundle of all the negative emotions in the world bundled into 38 minutes and 22 seconds, I think. And kicks off with Cells of Non-Being, and there's, like, really not much of a warning or a lead-in. Like, it just goes, and you're into frantic drums, apocalyptic riffing, like, just bizarre scales and tremolo riffs that, I don't know, it's like the equivalent of someone throwing a hornet's nest into your house. and you have to count the hornets before they sting you. And every time they sting you have to restart. Yeah,
no.
That's the worst.
That's probably pretty spot on.
You'll die long before you count, like, any of them.
It's immediately drenched in this damp, ugly, fucking, just filthy, nasty filth.
Yeah.
It immediately. There's no warning. Just bam, here you go. And then it's chaos. It sounds like when I'm having a rush at work. Like, when you just go insane by yourself and you're trying to figure out all the things you need to do to make things flow correctly, and you can't.
What did you want? We don't have that. Go away.
Yep.
What did you want?
Stop talking to me. Ah!
No, that is not buy one, get one free. Put that shit down.
Get your kid.
Get your kid. The kid's touching shit.
Get your fucking kid.
Get out. It's like that, except without getting fired.
I think this record, though, at least in my opinion, would be best described as a whole. Because while the songs do flow really well into each other, and it bookends, like, each song bookends well with the one before it. Just as a whole, it's just chaos. Just utter and complete chaos. The point is to sound heavier and more disgusting and gross than everything else.
Yeah. I definitely give him credit for pushing the limits in terms of, like, sonic barriers. And it does get, like, catchy in spots. Like, you have some really good, like, Morbid Angel-style tremolo riffs here and there, especially on the giant-sized song Operant Extinction, which is absolutely massive, but I think it takes a little bit more time to explore dynamics, because one of the things about this album, I think, like, probably overall their style, this is my first experience with this band, is it is so fast when it comes down to, like, transitioning, and, like, the transitions will come out of nowhere, like, not necessarily, like, on the beat you think they'll come.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a weird turnover that might take, like, a few measures or something too long.
It's like this record marches to the beat of its own drum, because the transitions, I don't think, make sense to anybody but the band.
Yeah. But, like, at no point do I think it sounds sloppy at all. It sounds meticulously crafted just to be absolutely insane. The drum work on here is dizzying.
I'm tired.
Yeah, like,
I'm tired.
I was exhausted for this guy by the first 2 tracks. But it's very crazy. Like, you get, like, tons of, like, raw blast beats. Like, and he's just hammering the shit out of his kit. But you also get these weird jazzy fills. Like, there is this strange little transition in Opera and Extinction where, I don't know, like, it starts off like a doomy lead-in. Mm-hmm. It gets very oppressive and very dark, which I know that could be described as the entire album. But this is, like, the less insane, like, no, we're just hitting you, like, harder than hell. And then it goes into this, like, spacey atmospheric noise, and then this odd drum solo.
It's not really a drum solo in the typical fashion of a drum solo in metal. It's more of like almost like I'd consider it to be like a jazz fusion type of thing. Like, it reminds me a lot of something Sean Reinert would play in the middle of a Cynic song.
Yeah.
But then if you've ever listened to the band Candiria, it's kind of something you would hear in the atmosphere in the middle of one of their songs. Even like the drone of the atmosphere kind of drops a little bit, and it's just hitting random toms and cymbals. It all goes together, but it sounds as chaotic as the rest of the album does, in the sense that it's not uniformed.
Yeah, honestly, I think if you added a horn section to this whole bridge, or actually maybe a good chunk of this album, yeah, it might sound similar to Imperial Triumphant, which,
Fair.
I mean, that comes out next week, and that ought to be a lot of fun to go over, too. Now, I do like that this is kind of a 2-half album, because the title track is essentially like an interlude, but it is musical. It's like a tribal percussion. There's big droning bass and just sort of like noisy soundscapes. Again, anything to make you not feel good about everything.
Like the low whispered voices that are stating something unfortunate.
Yeah, like, kill your coworkers, maybe burn down that house. I don't know. They're not pleasant voices. They're not telling you to do anything good. There's no way. And actually, that kind of works with the vocals anyway, because the vocals are kind of back in the mix. They're very cavernous and dark. Like, you can hear a scream every now and then.
They just add to another layer of sound.
Yeah, but the whispers and groans in the title track really do sound like it's just telling you subliminal shit. Like, it's creepy. But I kind of like that, because that is a little bit of a break. And when you get down to a song like Intrusion, it gets notably a little bit more riffy, like chuggy, like more brutal. It's not so, like, lashed onto, like, the dissonant strumming and just the atonal everything, just, like, let's be just noisy and heavy and frantic. Like, this one feels a little bit more dialed in on brutality and actually some pretty catchy riffs. Again, catchy for, weirdos like us that like insanely heavy music. But, I don't know, it felt a little bit more put together, or maybe it might put together, but controlled. Like, reined in, as much as they get reined in on this entire album, I would say.
Yeah, it's the first time that you'll notice actual, like, cohesive riffs versus just sound.
Yeah.
Versus just unsettling sound. Like, there are definitely big chugs in this song, some noticeable groove, but man, they really don't let up on that atmosphere whatsoever. It just...
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is what Carol Ann was hearing when she was talking to the TV people and the static. Because, I mean, there's like this hiss, like, all throughout, which kind of makes sense. Maybe hissing is what they went for.
Yep.
But it's weird, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you, like, kind of broke this down on, like, a sound wave or something like that, like, it feels like the wall of sound effect is here, like, because every conceivable level of sound is there, and I have to say, for as chaotic and just nuts as this is, it's very well mixed.
Yes. Yep. The production on it is actually crystal clear, which is strange for something like this, because normally you think of like mud and like muffled noises and the sound of being recorded at, analog on a 4-track tape deck somewhere in a cave, underwater. It's very clear. The bass work.
Yeah.
The bass player is the glue for this whole album. He is definitely holding together a groove. The drums are nice and crisp and clear. No production complaints.
Yeah, no. And I mean, they keep the guitars very, again, disgusting, gainy, it's just such a filthy sound to them. But the bass actually supplies a lot of the melody, especially like the first track, Cells of Non-Being. I was like, dude, behind all this insanity, I can hear like this really clever bass line.
Yeah, and that bass groove appears on most songs too. You gotta hunt for it, but when you do latch onto it, you're like, okay, I know what's happening here. I know what's going on, kind of.
Nah. You're fooling yourself. You think you know what's going on. What's going on here is, death metal and black metal for sure. That's 100% there. But there's also depression, anxiety. Wrath, and a series of panic attacks. Again, like, a lot of this just comes at you at such vicious levels. And when it does give you a break, it's not a break into anything, like, pleasant or melodic. It usually leads you into something even darker, just different. Like, Identical to Hunger has this really cool single chug sort of lead into a breakdown. It goes from just crazy to, like, doom-laden, like, fuck, you lost. The insanity won. Again, there's nothing about this album that's pleasant. It's just vicious from start to finish. And that was kind of an issue for me. Like, granted, it does work well as one cohesive piece, but for me, like, I do need more hooks in it. Like, I do need more riffs. And when I heard them, especially on Intrusion, it was like, okay, if they could mix that in a little bit more, because that gives me something to latch onto. Like, the guitars weren't just wailing dissonance, they actually had some pretty well constructed riffs, and they still had the dissonance sections. I like the fact that the songwriting is essentially a giant fuck you to like conventional song structure, because these songs are very unpredictable. Like, I really had no idea where they were going. I just knew it was one nightmare transitioning into another nightmare, and it was going to be very loud and very heavy. But, in terms of them sonically pushing those levels, I mean, tip in the hat there. It's impressively fucking heavy. But it's not something I would listen to all the time, mostly because I think I would be in a psych ward. I do like it, but it's just maybe too much in some aspects and not enough in others. So overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. I dig the overall vibe in terms of what they're trying to create, because believe me, they fucking created it. Pretty sure there was a portal that fucking opened somewhere in my house, and all sorts of creepy shit flew out. But in terms of like listenability and coming back to it, like, I like going back and re-listening to albums review like very often. Yeah. This one is gonna take me a little bit, because I jammed a couple of singles before I sat down and jammed this entire album as a whole, and I think listening to it as a whole, that's probably the way to do it if you want to do it. I would get it if you didn't. Like, if you're not a fan of Portal and Infernal Coil and shit like that, this will not be for you. But if you love that shit and you like just insanely dissonant, ugly, dark, all the negative emotions in the world packed into a 38-minute album again, you might really, really fucking dig this. So yeah, I urge you to check this out, give it a chance. It's sonically fucking hellish.
It's 3.5 for me. I really like music like this. It's weird.
It's because he's a serial killer.
This is becoming more of a favorite type of listen for me, because not just the chaos, but I like how albums like this make me feel. If it makes me feel unsettled and kind of frightened and just like blah, I oddly like that.
I would be more unsettled if you said, this makes me happy. I was like, okay.
It doesn't make me happy.
We're done here.
I don't think that happiness is possible. There's not an inkling of happiness in this record whatsoever. It is dark and disgusting and filthy and grimy and blah. But I will state that last night I jammed this album while I was cleaning the bathroom, and my bathroom has never been cleaner.
It also didn't have pentagrams on it all over before.
It didn't, but my bathroom has never been cleaner, so I don't know if what I conjured was Mr. Clean, but it worked out.
Like the scrubbing bubbles, except they all had devil horns.
While there's not a lot to latch on to here riff-wise, I mean, there is and there isn't. You'll find it. You'll find these little moments where it just gets a big old chug and you're like, ooh, that's gross. Or you'll find a minute where you can latch onto a riff and go, well, that's pretty cool. And the drum work is definitely insane. And the production's pretty top-notch. But, I mean, overall, as a whole, I had fun. Which is, again, kind of strange. But, yeah, like Nick said, if you're a fan of things like Portal and Pissgrave and really odd musical avant-garde experiences, this is definitely for you. I would recommend definitely checking this out, 100%.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link down below. There will also be a link down there for thrallsmetal.com where you can get one of our kick-ass shirts. And as for Denver Death Fest news, John, take it away!
And as for Denver Death Fest news, I just talked to the promoter today, and he said, hang tight, he's working on something really cool, and hopefully we'll be able to announce bands here really soon, because that's going to be really fucking helpful. September 30th, October 1st, and October 2nd in Denver, Colorado, because not Denver.
Right by Lake Michigan, right?
Right by there, well, yeah, and really, really close to Mexico.
Coastal Denver.
Yep, coastal, clear, crisp, wonderful Denver. Anyway, yeah. Coming really soon. Again, the promoter has assured me that when we do make our first announcement here, it's going to be worth the fucking wait. So, yeah. Click down there for all the updates, and yeah, come out and join us, because who doesn't like death metal? You know?
Well, I mean, people that don't
like death metal, but they're not probably watching this channel anyway.
Yeah.
So,
valid point. And of course, as always, thank you all so much for commenting, liking, supporting, all this stuff. It's been, again, an amazing ride, and of course, I always run out of shit to say at this end, because this is the awkward thank you part. And
He's so awkward.
I know, I'm so awkward, but I want to thank you.
So awkward.
I just want to thank your fucking faces, because you're all awesome. You all keep us going. We love fucking talking to you. I mean, I only wish I had more time to talk to you, but there's only so many hours in the day, and I can't sit in front of my computer all the time. I mean, I theoretically could, but I'm not gonna. But again, thank you all so much, and we will catch you later.